So again, good morning and thank you everyone for joining and coming today. And I've been gone for a while. Very happy to be back and to be one place. uh, especially this year has been a lot of traveling. Um, little tough than normal time. Um, so anyway, hope maybe I will get some rest here, physically, mentally. So, and again, today's special day, um, and yeah, this whole month is a special from Tibetan calendar point of view. Sometimes the calendar between the Tibetan calendar and the other lunar is slightly different, and so sometimes they are together, sometimes they are slightly different. But so according to the Tibetan calendar, and today is one of the most special day for the Buddhists. Um, so whole month and especially today the full moon. So being able to come here together and to share, to talk about something Dharma is always helpful. Then spending time, maybe we could have spent time watching a news or something else, uh, uh, which wouldn't be bad too, but I think definitely it is always something more beneficial uh, to talk about, to listen or to discuss something about, more important from a spiritual point of view. Um, so anyway, of course, Sunday we will be continue the Light of the Path by Atisha Digamkara, where we left last year. But today, I thought I would be just um, today I would be just summarizing what we have discussed so far, um, instead immediately jumping into where we have led. You know, so yeah, maybe as usual, maybe we can start with a short breathing exercise to quiet our mind. And just try to make yourself comfortable, relax, and feel the weight of your body on cushion or chair. Feel the environment. And bring your attention to the breath. As you breathe in, being aware you are breathing in. As you breathe out, being aware you are breathing out. So simply just watching mindfully and being aware of the breath in and out. And then we can try to generate good intention, motivation. For example, what is purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? If it's just about getting up every day, trying to survive, eat, walk, and do whatever. Is that really the purpose of our life, meaning of our life? How that day by day we get up and just do ordinary chores, then go back to sleep without having accomplished any special, but just ordinary, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. Then come to the end. If that is purpose of life, meaning of life, it's very narrow, nothing special. It is something all human beings, all sentient beings, even the insect. Why to do that? Since we have much more potential, we should be able to utilize our life for much more higher purpose or meaning. And that is to direct our life and towards working with our own mind, trying to improve our mind, trying to have less negative thoughts, mind, trying to improve and increase more healthy, positive thoughts and mind. If we can do that, we will find much more peace and joy and happiness in our life from within. Instead of trying to run after something external to find peace and happiness and never being able to find peace and happiness. By transforming our mind, not only we can find more peace, joy, happiness in our life, we will be able to be more help, more benefit to others. To be more service to others. Therefore, the purpose and meaning of my life should be work with our own mind and to be help and benefit to others as much as we can. In whatever way we can. Directly, indirectly. And continue to work with our practice, our mind, so not only we can be help, temporary help and benefit, but we can be ultimate help and benefit. The more enlightened we become through our practice, transformation of mind, the more and higher and better help and benefit we can be able to do to others. Therefore, I must actualize my highest potential, the fully awakened state, so I can be not only help, but greatest help and benefit to oneself and to all sentient beings. Not only few sentient beings, but with each and every sentient being. And even though it's a wonderful wish, but to accomplish that, we need to create cause and conditions through the practices, the both of the practices. And in order to engage in the both of the practices, we have to be encouraged, inspired, reminded, through listening, reading, reflecting, contemplating. And that is why we have gathered here. With the hope to get some reminder or inspiration, encouragement. So that we can take in our everyday life and try to integrate and apply as much as possible in our everyday life. Not just that we feel inspired into the Gomba, but once we go out of the Gomba, outside the Gomba, we forget. Or instead, we try to integrate and apply every day, all the time, as much as possible, whenever it's possible. Okay. Lama Amba ke Lama Kala Sangye Chedan Toge Chonam La Chanchu Patu Tane Kyapsu Dagi Jinso Gibe Tona Jola Penje Sangye Duba Sangye Chedan Toge Chona Chanchu Patu Tane Kyapsu Dagi Cheshe Gibe Tona Jola Penje Sangye Duba Sangye Chedan Toge Chonam La Chanchu Patu Tane Kyapsu Siso Gibe Tona Dola Tenge Sanke Doba Do. Sanke Rene Rone, Autumn de Rome, Condition Umbrella Tata Lo. I thought I will not get a formal greeting in New Mexico this time. For 2 days, I feel okay. But from yesterday, my nose started dripping, allergy got me. So then yeah, no, I have been carrying myself. Traditional one, old style. So I did get formal greeting from New Mexico, which I always get. I told them instead of the nose running, the water running from the nose, it would be better if it runs from the eyes. So most of you are familiar with the mandala offerings. If there's someone new, then I think maybe just to is a kind of tradition form. I always kind of struggle myself a little bit with. Sometimes I feel a little bit uncomfortable myself. But it is kind of tradition, that and is offering of the, at the very beginning, symbolize the universe. the mandala. And then there is the statue that symbolizes the body. Then there is the text that symbolizes the speech. And there is the stupa that symbolizes the mind. So it is kind of offering of body, space, and mind. And then and requesting to the for the teaching. And also is following also Buddha's advice in some of his advice. Normally you don't teach until you have been requested, unless there's a special circumstance. So you don't go and preach others. If there is interest from others and if they request, then it's time to share and the knowledge, the experience, whatever. So, and that is, and so as following that tradition, at the very beginning, there's always that kind of request. We try to do that. So coming back to the topic, in the light of the path, is Atisha, is the practice of what we call three scope, practice of three scope. Within that, the man is, the bodhi, the mind, that is part of the greater scope, And so the two earlier practice of middle scope and small scope, they are kind of like a preliminary to cultivate the bodhi mind. And again, the bodhi mind is, the aspirations, the wish to achieve your highest potential, the best of yourself, the fully awakened state, so that you can be greatest help and benefit to each and every sentient thing, driven by that great compassion mind to help to free all sentient beings from their suffering, all their suffering, cause of their suffering, driven by that great compassion. In order to do that, the wish to achieve your highest potential, that is what we call the mind. So that is the heart of this whole teaching and the practice. Once you have that bodhi, the mind, then how to engage into the practice to be benefit to others directly, indirectly, while on the path through the practice of such as self-perfection, and for means of gathering sentient beings and helping and benefiting them according to the need of whatever their need, So that is that's the kind of the main theme or the body of the text. In bodhi, the mind, when we are talking about, first of all, there's a difference when we try to be more kind of, sometimes teachers can kind of very loosely explain compassion and bodhi the almost same way, but if you really precise, it's a difference. Compassion and bodhicitta is different. Compassion is cause of the bodhicitta mind. Bodhicitta mind is the result of the great compassion. So, And even when we talk about bodhicitta mind or compassion mind, we are not talking, when we talk about realization of compassion, realization of bodhicitta mind, we are not talking about moment of feeling compassion bodhicitta in the moment. Sometimes we feel that way, while in meditation or while you encounter certain situation, you might be very compassionate. You are moved by so much compassion, maybe tears running, unbearable, that feeling of compassion. You might have that similar feeling with bodhicitta, with that compassion, the wish to achieve your best, the fully enlightenment in moment. But still, in order to have the realization, we need to have those feelings all the time. Realizations what? Realizations is when you have those feelings, effortlessly, spontaneously, naturally, all the time. That is where we want to reach. So we shouldn't think that just because you have one moment of that, then you don't need to practice. I have compassion, or I bodhicitta, I've developed bodhicitta mind compassion. I don't need to continue to practice until we have that same feeling all the time. That is when we have. That is what we call a realize. That is a realization means that that is what we are trying to achieve. That realization. Of course, if you have that feeling all the time, effortless, spontaneous, naturally all the time, then definitely someone has actualized the realization of what is the compassion or what is about the mind. Still, even when you have actualized, still need to continue to practice, meditate before. It can degenerate. It can degenerate until it reaches certain point. If you reach certain point, then there's no more coming back. It doesn't degenerate anymore. But until you reach that, it can degenerate. Just like in our, sometimes we feel very, sometimes we feel strong renunciation about life, samsara. For a moment, sometimes maybe for a day, for a week, you feel essenceless of this samsara and all samsara things. But then after 1 month, you don't feel that way. After 1 month, samsara looks so enchanting. Because we are in the land of enchanting. So then life seems enchanting. It doesn't feel, there's no more feeling of that renounce anymore to the samsaric feeling. And similarly, even after having a realization, if we don't maintain and practice, we can lose that. That can be deteriorate. So we need to continue to practice. And then once we reach certain path, certain point, then there's no more coming back, or there's no danger of losing that. Of course, there's much more for us to make progress again, but we will not lose that bodhicitta mind or this compassion or the wisdom realizing the emptiness or ultimate reality, whatever different realization we might have, or one might have. So the bodhicitta is the very heart or the essence of this whole bodhisattva practice. It's like the body, and then other practice of middle and small scope, as I mentioned before, is like the preliminary that lead to that, and then other practices as a professional are like the the advice, the commitment, or the actions out of that bodhicitta mind. So, and in order to have that bodhicitta mind, in order to have that kind of bodhicitta mind, I mentioned, we need to have a great compassion. Of course, great compassion. And a great compassion is that the compassion you feel for everyone. Same way. If we are feeling compassion for a certain individual, and if we are not feeling same way to some others, it is compassion, but it's not a great compassion. And if we don't have the great compassion, then it is not possible to have the bodhicitta mind, real bodhicitta realization. So, with that, we can see, the requirement of practice. Effort, practice, time to cultivate those. Because, it is easy to feel compassion for a certain individual in certain situations. It's not easy to feel compassion for everyone in every situation. Even same person, when in certain situation you feel compassion, in certain situation you feel anger, hatred. For some we feel compassion, for some we feel very upset, angry. That clearly shows, that we don't have the great compassion at this point. That's a very clear sign if we feel that way. We might have some compassion, but we haven't reached a point where we have great compassion, where we have been able to feel that same feeling for everyone all the time. So that is, so in order to have that bodhicitta mind, we need to first develop great compassion. That great compassion is the root cause of that bodhicitta mind. In order to have that great compassion, then, we need to have pure renunciation. Now, what does the pure renunciation mean? Pure renunciation means, not being, by seeing the shortcoming and the fault of all samsaric experience, or contaminated experience, whether it's pleasant, whether it's unpleasant, whether it's neutral, whether it's pleasant. As long as it's contaminated experience, as long as it's samsaric experience, it's not true happiness. In nature, it's a suffering. With that understanding, then you don't get attached to any of them. Not being attached to, of course, we are not attached to suffering. What we call obvious suffering, what we call suffering or pain. But it's much more difficult to not be attached to samsaric pleasure. Samsaric pleasure. As long as you're attached to samsaric pleasure, then you don't, you have not renounced that samsaric pleasure. Because you don't see that as a suffering, pain. You see as something happiness, pleasure. Instead of renouncing, you try to achieve that. You try to accomplish that. And if you don't see this as something, in reality is suffering, something that is happiness, Then when you see someone in that state, you don't feel compassion for because you don't see their suffering. You know, that is why we feel compassion when we see suffering or pain. Okay, whether it's human beings, whether it's animal. Someone is wounded, someone is sick, someone is not starving. Those suffering are very obvious. What we call suffering or pain. Not only we human beings understand those as a suffering, even the animals recognize that as a suffering. Even they try to avoid that. Even the animals recognize those something as unwanted, something painful, they try to avoid it. When we see someone in such situation, we feel compassion. You know, even someone who has not practiced Dharma, they feel compassion when they see that suffering. Not only we human beings, sometimes animals, you can see them, they express the pain when they see the pain of another animal, their species or even different species. They show empathy. They mourn and they feel sad when they see the pain and suffering of them. So even the animal can feel some level of compassion, that kind of compassion. So here, when we talk about great compassion, and to be able to feel that same compassion for everyone, to feel that compassion everyone, we have to see everyone is suffering. Some suffering, obviously, in that suffering of pain. Some are not having they are not going through the suffering of pain at the moment, but they are going through suffering of change or suffering of pervasive. As long as your life is driven by samsaric birth or rebirth, as long as your life is driven by the delusion and contaminated karma, that is set aside. Because that means that person or any being is still in prison. They don't have total freedom. In a prison. We are not in external prison, but we are in internal prison. We can feel compassion for someone if they are in prison and being tortured. Similarly, we are in an internal prison and we are being tortured by those afflictive emotions all the time. I don't want to get upset, but I get upset. I don't want to get jealousy, I get jealous. I don't want to have attachment, but I cannot stop that. So all those different afflictive emotions, even we don't want, they overpower us, they overwhelm us, and then, it totally takes the power from us. We become kind of hopeless, powerless in that moment. So even though sometimes we feel like, so that is what it means to be prisoners. That is what it means to be slave. We are slave of our mind. Our mind is slave of those afflictive emotions. That is why nobody wants to get in trouble, but we get in trouble. Nobody wants to experience suffering, but we experience suffering. Why? Why? Because of those afflictive emotions. Because of those afflictive emotions. So therefore, as long as anyone has those afflictive emotions, and as long as they engage in the contaminated action due to those afflictive emotions, that means they all are slave and prisoner. And someone who is prisoner and slave, they suffer. And therefore, from that perspective, then even when you are healthy, you know, even when you are healthy, you know, even when you are, you know, have a good relationship, even when you have security of your financial situation, everything, still as long as you have those affective emotions, as long as you have those affective emotions, those negative emotions, you are still prisoner and slave. You are still suffering because of being prisoner, because of being slave of those affective emotions. When we really understand that with our own experience, when we really understand our own experience, then we will not be attached to any of that. And when you are not attached to not only the samsaric unpleasant feeling, but even the pleasant samsaric as long as samsaric, as long as contaminated, even those pleasant feelings lead to disappointment, suffering, never lead to true happiness. Through that understanding, then you don't get attached to them. You give you give up attachment to them. And that is what renunciation, pure renunciation. When you give up attachment to not only the unpleasant feeling, but even the pleasant feeling of samsara. As long as it's contaminated, as long as it's samsaric feeling, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, it can never give you true satisfaction, true happiness. It only leads you to, more disappointment, more unhappiness. Does not last. Through that understanding, then we learn to not be attached to any of them. And when you have that, and when you apply that to others, through that understanding, then when you see others, even when they are in healthy, good relationship, even they are, have a finance, no problem, security, but as long as they are still in samsara, as long as they have the delusion, as long as they are still suffering, you understand. Then you can feel compassion for them. So then you can feel compassion on everyone, every sentient being, because every sentient being is one of those two. And that is how we can feel great compassion. Then it allows you to feel compassion on everyone, not only those who are experiencing the suffering of pain, but even those who are not experiencing suffering of pain at the moment. So that will, that compassion, that you are able to feel compassion for someone, not only someone who is on the street, starving, not having a warm cloth to protect them from the coldness, but you are able to feel someone who is driving Mercedes with everything and compassion, because just as this person experiencing suffering, they are also experiencing suffering in a different way. This one on the street is suffering of pain, obvious suffering. The other one is not suffering of pain at the moment, but they are still suffering in a sense. They don't have freedom from their affective emotion. They are still the prisoner of their own affective emotion. They are still the slave of their own affective emotion. And through that understanding, then you are able to feel compassion for everyone. And even person who is on the street, someone or yourself is able to help them from being on the street anymore, that they have house to live on, they have enough clothes to live on, you can still have compassion. The normal compassion, once their situation changes, you lose there's no more compassion because you think they are not suffering anymore. Do you get it? Now you think, oh, they are not suffering anymore. They have enough. They have house to live on. They have roof on to live on. They have enough food to eat. Everything's fine. It's hard to feel comfortable. But if you understand, that even though that situation has changed, but still, as long as they are not free from their afflicted emotion, they are still suffering. Once you understand that, then your compassion doesn't change because their situation changed. The external situation changed. At the moment, our compassion changes all the time when there is a change in the external situation. We feel compassion in one moment, and then the situation changes, and then next moment we don't feel compassion. So, in order to have that great compassion, we need to have that renunciation, because through that renunciation, it gives you the understanding. It gives you the understanding how every sentient being in the samsara is experiencing one form of suffering. Some of them are experiencing 3 forms of suffering. Some of them are experiencing 2 forms of suffering. Some of them are experiencing 1 form of suffering, but all are experiencing one of those suffering all the time. Through that understanding, that renunciation helps you to have that, through that, your own experience, with your own experience. Renunciations, you feel with your own experience, Yeah, one moment I feel life is so great. We feel life is so great, wonderful. And then something happened, your mind is disturbed. Then you feel like upside down. Life is, that's how a lot of people feel. Totally opposite. In one moment, the life looked like paradise. Something happens, it disturbed their mind, and then they started to have total opposite feeling. Perceptions of life and feeling about it. Feeling it is kind of, horrible. Why? Because we still have those afflicted emotions, and due to certain cause and condition, one of those afflicted emotions was triggered. One of those afflicted emotions was triggered. And by being triggered, then one of those strong afflicted emotions arises, and then that totally changes, So that is how it is, as long as we have afflicted emotion. So with that, we try to understand with our own experience, and then trying to understand, absolutely, there's no real lasting peace and happiness as long as we are under the control or influence of the delusions. Through that understanding, then we have renunciation, and when we apply that to others, then give rise to the great compassion. So that is how. So the practice and meditation, how to cultivate that renunciation, is the part of the practice of middle flow. Different practices, different meditations, method that is explain how to cultivate that both renunciation, how to let go of any kind of attachment, and have that pure renunciation. Those are part of the practice of middle flow. Of course, we try to, someone who is interested to follow this path, we try to cultivate renunciation, bodhicitta, all this spiritual realization, spiritual experience within this lifetime, or achieve even enlightenment in one lifetime. But that might not be the as easy for everyone to do that in one lifetime. There is the potential, but many cause and condition has become. Not everyone is able to do that because not all the cause and condition come for everyone. So if we are unable to achieve our spiritual goal, so to continue where we have left in next life, to work on that, so that wherever we have left, so we can continue from there, so continue to make improve life after life until we achieve all this spiritual realization experience. Then we need to create a cause and conditions that can help us to continue to practice the Dharma, continue, create a cause and conditions so that we can continue to carry on our spiritual path. And that means creating cause and conditions to have a better, higher rebirth, precious human, precious human life. If we have precious human life, we have better cause and conditions to practice the Dharma. If we are born as an animal, it's much more difficult to, the cause and conditions are much more difficult to practice the Dharma and to be on the path, and to continue to be on the path and progress on the path. So, so we need to create cause and conditions, to have a better rebirth so that we can continue the practice and continue the journey. And in order to have that higher rebirth, which is precious human rebirth, which has much more, conducive condition to practice the Dharma and progress on the path, then, one need to go in the refuge to Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and having gone in refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, then, trying to keep the precept. And that is, avoid intent non-virtuous action, engage in 10 virtuous action, And avoiding 10 non-virtuous actions is, those actions that hurt and harm others and oneself. We try to avoid any action through body, speech, and mind that harm and hurt others and oneself. And so that is the, and in order to be able to avoid 10 non-virtuous action, and in order to engage in 10 virtuous action, the opposite of 10 non-virtuous action, in order to be inspired and engage in 10 virtuous action strongly, then we need to have, better understanding or deeper understanding of law of cause and effect karma. The more stronger understanding, the more deeper understanding we have of karma, law of cause and effect, the more energy, the more enthusiasm it gives us to avoid those, such as those 10 non-virtuous actions, and to engage in virtuous actions, so forth. And in order to, practice the Dharma, on minimum level, trying to avoid 10 non-virtuous action and engage in virtuous action, 10 virtuous action. On minimal level, to practice that, then, profound, deeper understanding of karma, health, as well as the understanding of impermanence, that impermanence would inspire us to practice more. You know. When we recognize, you know, we will be facing the death one day, and it will come any time. Then, you know, we begin to have different approach to our life by seeing what is more meaning, what is the when I live this life, what am I going to leave behind? What's the meaning of that? You know, I just become a one burden to the world, use all the of the resource of this world, planet, and go, or do I want to be something who contributed something? You know, not being a burden, but actually contributing towards that. You know? And so, when you reflect in that way, then it it inspired us to practice the Dharma, and not only practice the Dharma, it inspired us to practice Dharma now without wasting, because we never know when is our last day. You know, even though we all feel the time is on our side all the time, you know. Of course, we are still dealing with a lot of people whom we have lost in recent time. You know, we are still kind of almost like unbelievable, you know, kind of almost like shock, almost like kind of unexpected, even though that shouldn't be the case, but that is what it is, because we were not expecting, we are still thought there was, you know, years for them to live, you know, if not, you know, and when that stuck, you know, you know, so not all it happened to all others, and it could happen to us anytime, any moment. You know? It's not like it happens to others, it doesn't happen to us. You know, even though sometimes that is how we feel. You know, we are different. It was sudden to them, but it feel like, you know, I will have time. I can arrange my how to do everything. You know, and that can be very misleading, deceiving. So through that understanding, you know, that that is sudden. As long as we are born, we have to die. No exception, everyone. You know, no one in this world have come who have not faced that, and we are no exception. We are not exception. Not only it will come, we don't know when it is going to come. That is the thing. We don't know when it is going to come. We don't know when it is going to come. Since we don't know when it's going to come, that it could come anytime, you know, then without postponing, without delaying, we try to engage in as much as virtuous action as possible. We try to avoid as much as non-virtuous actions as possible. That is harmful to others and oneself. So we should more effort, more energy in doing that. So meditating on, you know, death impermanence, as well as meditating on precious human rebirth. You know, through the meditation on precious human rebirth and death impermanence, then it helps us to feel the urgency. You know, no time to waste. No time to waste. Instead, you know, whatever time I have, I should try to apply those practice teaching as much as possible. You know, So all this practice, and so when you put more practice, more effort in that, then you create cause and not only you become more happy, more peaceful, more kind in this life, in this life. Also, you have less regret at the time of death. You know, we have less regret. Less struggle at the time of death. And after that, we create a better cause and condition to continue the path. So that we can continue to have, if we are not able to actualize renunciation or bodhisattva or all the path, we can continue path and to actualize in the future. If we can actualize this year, we can again make more progress in the future until we achieve our highest potential. And so that is the practice of meditation and the practice teaching on, especially human rebirth, death, impermanence, refuge, karma, they all are part of the practice of smoke scope. So through the practice of small scope and middle scope, then it gives rise to cultivating the great compassion. Through the cultivating great compassion, it gives rise to the bodhicitta mind. And once we have that bodhicitta mind, as Lama Rinpoche always says, the moment you have that bodhicitta mind, true real happiness starts. Real happiness starts. That before that, the happiness is not so real. It could be just a samsaric, contaminated happiness, pleasure, not true happiness. And also true happiness really starts from there. So, and once you engage, once you have that bodhicitta mind, then out of that bodhicitta mind, then you continue to meditate, practice, to create more conducive conditions on the path, and trying to clear and purify whatever obstacles there are for the spiritual growth, for more spiritual realization. And trying to engage in practice such as the practice of generosity, practice of moral discipline, patience, joy, effort in virtues, and meditative concentration, wisdom, and so forth. That's the paramita or 10 paramita. And those practice as those parameters, the practice of those 6 or 7 parameters, 6 or 10 parameters as a result of that bodhicitta mind. And so then one engage in that, and through that we make more progress in our spiritual path. We are able to be more help and benefit to others. So on one hand, we are able to help and benefit others. At the same time, we are making more progress on our spiritual path and getting closer and closer to the enlightenment. And through that, it helps and benefits others, and one hand it helps both, not just one. It is not just helping just yourself, it's not just helping others, but it helps benefit both others and oneself. So yeah. So in terms of where we have left from last year in Atisha's Lamb of the Path, we finished the bodhicitta and the practice of moral generosity, moral discipline, patience. Even though here Atisha doesn't go much depth in that, but is part of that. And then here he focused more on the three parameters, the parameter of um, moral discipline, the parameter of meditation concentration, and parameter of food. And we are on the verses or chapter where he was discussing about the parameter of moral discipline. And moral discipline, or the both about training in the moral discipline, both moral discipline training. So there, that one we will continue from next week. So this is just to kind of summarize a little bit what we discussed last year and where we left. And so, okay, so then I can take some questions. Anyone has any questions? Please feel to raise your hand. Yes, please. Yeah. There are many emotions. Some emotion we need to get rid of. Also the word. Uh-huh. A long one, yeah. Well, I think the question was whether the compassion is emotion or not. And if that is the emotion, then when we talk about being non-attached during the middle school practice as part of renunciation, then that means that seems like emotionless, and so there seems to be contradiction. I don't know exactly English word the emotions to be honestly, but um, um, very specifically, okay. So that would be one problem. Compassion normally is the emotions, and definitely is the emotion. It's a positive emotion, and we don't try to reject the positive emotion, but those negative emotions, is that something that we try to get rid of? And attachments could be, I don't know English from English scientific word whether there is emotion or not attachment, but from the way we use in Buddhist term, is a negative emotion. And through the practice of renunciation, we try to get rid of those negative emotions, such as attachment, and try to increase the positive emotion through compassion and so forth. So I don't think there is a contradiction in middle way practice or practice or meditations. We try to, through certain meditation technique, we try to overcome certain negative emotions, and then having overcome those negative emotions, on the basis of that, then we use that to develop more positive emotions, such as to love, compassion, both to the mind and so forth. Yeah, that is what I was saying. Compassion, positive emotion. That is what we are trying to develop. That is where I was talking about two different emotions, trying to overcome the negative emotion and trying to cultivate the positive emotion, compassion and positive emotion. Love is positive emotion. Bodhicitta, I don't know, Bodhicitta could be also emotion. I can't say for sure, but If you don't see their pain and suffering, then you don't feel compassion for them. You cannot feel. That means you understand up and down means is some problem there. When you see someone's, even they are happy, but when you see their up and downs, life is up and down, that means you see the life is challenging. Life is not life is not always rosy all the time. That means you feel some some pain or problem or difficulty of them, and that is what allow you to feel compassion for. So that is why even someone seems very happy outside, but inside, as long as they have the delusion, then still they have a problem. They have their own problem. Not You don't have to see someone on the street to feel. You can think, contemplate. I don't have to be in Africa to feel compassion, people suffering there. I don't have to be in Nepal to feel compassion, those who are suffering. I can see, if I really contemplate, if I really try to feel them, I can feel them from there. I don't have to be there. There are many other different forms of engaging in virtues. It doesn't mean just being generous with someone all the time. There are many different forms of engagement in virtue, peacefully, verbally. Yeah. Any others? Comment? If you don't have any question, yes, please. Nora. Mhm. There can be separate and there is flow. For those who want to follow the Bodhisattva path, it's a flow. But those who doesn't, for example, those who are not inclined or who doesn't have maybe courage to follow the Bodhisattva path, but who only wish for their individual liberation, then it can be a separate. So then middle path, middle scope is for them, and not a great scope for them. Or someone who is not even at the moment who doesn't feel even the liberation possible for them. Forget about enlightenment, helping, benefiting others, and even liberations, individual liberation, feel too far away, feel like it's not for them, but they might feel, maybe at least they want to have a better rebirth. And for them, middle path is not path, but they follow the small path for that purpose. That then it becomes separate. But those who have the inclination, interest in the both of the path, then these scope are more flow. One practice in meditation. Through one practice meditation, you have certain understanding or realization, and through that realization, then it gives foundation for the next realization. And then when you have next realization, that become a foundation for the next realization, as I mentioned earlier. The renunciation become the foundation of the great compassion and bodhicitta. And then the other practice of Buddhism can help us to develop more stronger renunciation and bodhicitta. Maybe when you reach that, maybe you have to ask someone who have reached that point. At the moment, I think we both are guessing. Okay, I think when we reach that point, we will find someone who is in that capacity to ask, and they can provide, of course, theoretically, there is path, 5 paths, 10 Buddhism. And then, you can still lose even after you enter the first path. But after within the first path, there is a initial or the small and middle and higher. And once you reach the middle, then there's no more coming back. You don't lose. But when you are still in the first stages of the first path, one can still lose the mind at that point. But once you reach the middle of the first path, that other accumulation, then it is mentioned. I'm not showing from my experience, but it's mentioned in the scriptures text from those who have experienced that. What they share is that, and you don't lose after that. Yeah. So then we do the dedications. Yeah. So if can someone share the dedication, or maybe we can. If we can share the Shantideva dedication prayer. Okay. Yeah. Maybe you need, because I cannot. My virtues of my merit, may no living creature suffer from it zero for it. May no one be afraid and be little to the mind away come back to sight. May the blind see born and the deaf hear come. May those whose bodies are worn with soul be restored and full. May the children, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water to drink. May the poor find wealth, the weak find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May they be kindly rain and bountiful heart. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer there. The sick and ill freely be free from their whatever disease there is in the world, may be never. May the frightening sick be afraid and those harm be. May the power that find power, and may people think of imitating peace. For faithfulness faithfully remain, for effort and condemn remain. Until then, may I still remain to this world and misery. Thank you very much, everyone. And I forgot to ask those who are Zoom for the portion, but maybe next time you can raise your hand or that. I don't know anyone taking that. Yeah, yeah. So, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Maybe we can do the prayer for the food here. Okay. First, we try to transform and bless and make offerings to the Guru, the Buddha, Lama, Sangha, and charity to all sentient beings. Oma, Oma. Lama Sangye Lama Kedishin Lama Gendende Wenji Sepo Lama Lama Nala We also try to recollect the motivation for eating, that we are going by thinking I'm going to eat to sustain and to be healthy, so we can practice the Dharma, and so we can be help and benefit to others and oneself. Then we also dedicate all the virtues to all sentient beings, especially those sentient beings who have directly, indirectly contributed towards the food, so we can enjoy, we can sustain and be healthy, for all to have good, healthy, happy life, and all their wishes to be embodied in the ultimate wishes to be fulfilled according to the Dharma. Please dig in. Yeah, that is the Tibetan word.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you.